What's up guys, T-Mart here, and yesterday we had the official reveal for Call of Duty World War II, and with that we got a ton of information. So we had a little reveal trailer, we had a behind the scenes trailer for that reveal trailer, and then we had a long live stream where they talked with some of the devs and talked with some of the actors and cast and stuff like that. And overall it was a really cool thing. They confirmed that zombies are going to be coming back. We got all sorts of information. I wanted to kind of organize all that information and tell you guys about it, show some of the stuff you guys may have missed, and I'm going to do it in two videos. So in this video today, we are going to be talking about everything we learned about multiplayer. Now obviously, pretty much all of yesterday was focused on single player, but there was some stuff that we can get about multiplayer out of all that information, so that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. And then tomorrow, we're going to go through and talk about everything we learned about the single player, which is definitely a lot more stuff, but obviously a lot of us are waiting on bated breath for multiplayer. We want as much multiplayer info as we can possibly get. So the actual official reveal of multiplayer, when we're going to get more information and get gameplay and stuff like that, is going to be at E3 this year, which is June. I think it's like the second or third week of June, somewhere around like June 14th or something like that. So, look forward to that. And I think they're going to have it playable on the floor. So if you can go to E3, which always takes place in downtown Los Angeles, then you're actually going to be able to play the game early. If you can't go, there's definitely going to be all sorts of live streams and probably another trailer that comes out and all sorts of information you can still get at home. And I'm hoping that a lot of us YouTubers get invited out to be able to record gameplay and bring you guys gameplay. That'd be really, really cool. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, so that's when you get official information. But like we said, we did get some stuff from the reveal yesterday. So the first thing we're going to talk about are the weapons. Now, technically everything we saw yesterday was single player gameplay, but you guys know how this works. I mean, most of the time, like 90% of the weapons you see in single player end up in multiplayer in Call of Duty. It's like that every single year. So I'm going to assume that most of the weapons that we saw yesterday we're also going to have in multiplayer. And it totally makes sense because most of these weapons we've seen in the multiplayer of Call of Duty World at War and all sorts of other stuff. So let's take a look at these things. Now, starting off, we have 4 weapons that were 100% confirmed during the live stream. Like when there was an interview with Michael Condrey and Glenn Schofield, they actually talked about them. They had images come up on the screen and stuff like that. And then we also have some other weapons that we can see throughout the trailer and the behind the scenes and stuff like that. So even though they didn't officially talk about them, you can clearly see exactly what they are. But starting off with the ones that they actually talked about, the first one is going to be the M1 Garand. Of course, this thing is a legendary. You could not have a World War II game without having this weapon in there. I absolutely cannot wait. We even heard the sound of it reloading in the trailer. That sound still gets me going, man. Such a good sound. So the M1 Garand is back. The MG42. Condrey said that this is one of the most just insane, just decimating weapons in the game, and it truly is in real life too. I mean, the MG42 is what the Nazis had up in their bunkers when we stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day, and they were just mowing down all of our guys coming out of the U-boats and stuff. Those things had so much firepower, and they're definitely going to be back here in World War II. Next up, we have the M1903 bolt-action rifle. So yes, this is the first official sniper rifle that we have confirmed in Call of Duty World War II, but this isn't the only thing they confirmed. A lot of people actually ended up missing this during the live stream because it was a short little snippet from Condrey, but he confirmed that we're also going to have iron sight rifles in the game as well. Listen to this.
Equipped with scopes or iron sights, these weapons were frankly pretty precise.
Aha, so this is huge, and like I said, a lot of people missed this. He's talking about the M1903 and bolt actions in general. It sounds like for the bolt actions in this game, you're going to be able to choose whether or not you want to use a sniper scope for the magnified zoom, or if you want to take that off and just use iron sights. And honestly, that was one of my favorite parts of Call of Duty World at War back in the day. It was so much fun to use the iron sight bolt action rifles, the Mosin Nagant, the Kar 98, all sorts of stuff like that. They were so good. And although you didn't have the magnified zoom, so for super long range, it wasn't quite as effective, it made it way more effective at close and medium range, because I'm pretty sure you could ADS a little bit quicker. Don't quote me on that. I don't exactly remember that, but it was just like, it was so much easier to handle and to zoom in, and if you were accurate, it was so good, man. Like, it was absolutely insane. It was really hard to play against somebody who was good with it. So I'm excited to be able to, try that out and do that a little bit more this year. And I can't wait to see some of the other bolt actions that they've added in. Now, the final one that they did officially confirm on the live stream is the grease gun. So this thing is an iconic weapon from back in the day. It's an SMG used by the US Army. It's kind of like the Allies version of the MP40. So the MP40 was a German weapon. It was used by the Axis powers. This was the Allies' kind of like response to that. So I don't know if it's going to completely replace the MP40 or how that's going to work, but it's going to be a lot of fun to use. I can't wait. And SMGs are really what I'm looking forward to with this game. Like this thing, the Thompson, all sorts of stuff like that. It's going to be absolutely insane. But anyway, let's move on to some of the other weapons that we saw in the different trailers and behind the scenes and stuff like that we can also confirm. So this image right here, you guys can see this guy's up in a tank, but he's got a Browning. Now, the Browning was really cool back in Call of Duty World at War. It actually had a bipod on it. So when you were laying down or if you were up in a window, you could set up the bipod to reduce your recoil. And I think you ended up, having more ammo or shooting faster or something like that. I don't exactly remember. I mean, that was nearly a decade ago. But that'll be cool to see that thing back. Some of the LMGs are just absolutely insane. Speaking of LMGs, I think this thing right here is a bar. Obviously, it's not a very good image, but I think this is a bar. So I definitely loved that thing back in the day. Right here, on the front of this soldier's chest, you can see he's got an M1911, definitely one of the most iconic handguns of all time and very widely used in World War II. Right here, you guys can kind of barely see the outline of a bayonet on the end of this guy's rifle, so it sounds like we could have bayonets back, which would be kind of cool, kind of extend that melee range. Also, we did see a flamethrower, so I'm really hoping this is back in multiplayer. Who knows how it's going to be back, though? Could it be a secondary weapon? Could it be, like, are we going to have specialists of some sort? Could it be a kill streak? I don't know, but I hope the flamethrower is back. That thing was so much fun back in the day, even though it really wasn't that good. It was still fun to run around with. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about in terms of weapons were tanks and planes. So obviously, the vehicles were very huge back in World War II, and back in Call of Duty World at War, there were a couple of maps that were huge and allowed us to use tanks. Now that we're nearly a decade in the future and we have next-gen consoles and we have so much more memory and space to play with, I really think that tanks and planes are going to be a part of multiplayer. Now, is it going to be nearly as important as it is in like Battlefield, for example? I don't think so, but I do think they're going to be in multiplayer in some way, shape, or form. It could be as small as just being parts of score streaks, or it could be as big as we actually could have playable vehicles on the map. We'll have to wait and see what they do. This is definitely one of the biggest questions I have after everything we've seen so far, is whether or not these things are going to make it into multiplayer, because obviously they're a huge part of the campaign. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Next up, getting outside of the weapons and stuff like that, let's just talk about general gameplay mechanics. Gore is definitely going to be back. So, and this is something I'm really excited about. Back in World at War, if you guys didn't play that game was brutal. Like, there was a lot of blood. There was a lot of stuff that went down. Like, if you shot somebody up close with the trench gun or the double barrel, they literally exploded into like 4 different pieces. Like, I couldn't believe how gory that game was back in the day. And it sounds like we're going to get a lot of crazy stuff in this game as well, because I mean, World War II, obviously the bloodiest battle of all time, the bloodiest war of all time, and I think that they're trying to stay true to it as possible. Like they said that their idea was to be dark and beautiful, and I think we're going to see a lot of gore and giving and stuff like that. Now, next up, I want to check out a couple of screenshots with you guys. So the first thing is that we did get a really good first-person screenshot from the reveal trailer. And granted, this is single-player gameplay. It still gives you an idea of what that first-person view is going to be like and what multiplayer could potentially be like. We also, I believe, did get a couple of multiplayer screenshots, but they come from computer screens in the background of the behind-the-scenes trailer. So they're not the best image quality, but still, that's our little, sneak peek teaser of multiplayer before we actually get the reveal in June. So yeah, I don't know. It looks pretty good. It looks like Call of Duty. I thought that was kind of cool to take a look at that stuff. And then finally, last but not least, let's take a look at a couple of new features and game modes that they've added in. So the biggest new feature that they announced yesterday is headquarters. And I actually kind of predicted this in a video last week. So they said that this is a big innovation that they put a ton of time into, and it's a space where you can connect, compete, be rewarded, show off, and have fun outside of matches. It's an entirely new social experience. And to me, this looks a lot like the Destiny Tower. So this is where you go in, you hang out with other players, you're not actually playing the game, but maybe you have like a space you can customize, and maybe you can show off your really cool gear or your really cool medals or other stuff like that. And it sounds like they're going to try to make this into something more than just a combat record. It's going to be a lot more than that. There are going to be ways to compete in there. There are going to be ways to earn rewards in there. It sounds like it's going to be pretty cool. And I don't know. I'm kind of excited about it. Hopefully this ends up being something actually really, really cool and not just something that's like, oh, that's awesome, and then nobody actually ends up using it. We'll have to wait and see. Another thing we got from this preview is I believe the highest rank in the game is 55. Now, obviously we have prestiges, but if you take a look at this, like the two soldiers in the foreground are both ranked 55, and then when it goes above them to reveal everything else, no other soldier in that area is higher than level 55. So is that an absolute confirmation? No, but I do think that 55 is going to be the highest rank in the game, which is kind of cool. And then also something else that might have something to do with this and might not is that this game actually has a 48 player maximum. So check out this screenshot from the Xbox One store. It says that there are 48 maximum players in World War II. So holy cow, that's a lot of people to have online at once. Does that mean we could have 48 person lobbies? I guess possibly. I'm assuming that this just means that you can have a maximum of 48 people in each headquarters location, but who knows what that actually means. It's kind of exciting. Now, there was one more new feature they mentioned when talking about multiplayer called the Visions, and we really didn't get any sort of a description for this. All that Condry said was that you can choose to enlist in a specific unit of your choice, but I'm going to take a guess in the dark here and say that it's something like mission teams from Infinite Warfare. So you choose a certain team or squad or unit to be a part of, and then you can rank up within that unit, you can complete challenges, get rewards, stuff like that. That's my guess. Who knows what it actually is, but it sounds kind of cool, I guess. I don't know. Mission teams are awesome. It gives you kind of like a secondary way to challenge yourself in the game, so I don't see any problem with that. I think that's something Infinite Warfare did right. And then finally, last but not least, we have a brand new game mode coming to Call of Duty World War II. Now, it's called War, and I call it brand new because I think it's a little bit different from War back in Call of Duty World at War. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but they said that War is going to be an allied versus Axis mode to fight to capture and defend critical objectives. And this completely redefines map design, strategy, and teamwork. So this sounds like it's a pretty big undertaking. Who knows how it's actually going to work? We actually had a mode called War back in Call of Duty World at War. So many wars going around right now. But that was basically like, each team was spawning on each side, and they wanted to push the other team's spawn back as far as possible. And if you pushed them all the way back to the edge of the map, that's how you won. And then you got things like blitzkriegs to be able to, increase the amount of time that it took and stuff like that. I don't know. It was a pretty interesting game mode. It was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. But to me, this version of War sounds almost like something from Battlefield, like Conquest or something like that, where like there's one side trying to advance, and then there's one side trying to defend and hold the other team back from advancing. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how all this works, but it sounds pretty interesting, and it sounds like it's a huge new mode that they put a ton of time into. So there you guys have it. That is all the stuff we learned about multiplayer from yesterday's stream extravaganza. It was mainly focused on the single player side of things, but we did get quite a few things in terms of what we can expect from MP. So I absolutely cannot wait until June. I'm sure we'll get more news and information until then, so you guys better believe I'm going to have all sorts of videos coming out covering everything about this game. I'm extremely excited, and hopefully you guys are too. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to catch you guys later. Peace out.